Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're taking a look at the CRKT Directive. This is a kind of interesting knife design, and I'm pretty excited to talk about it. So let's go ahead and jump right in with our blade length measurement. Sharpened edge coming in here about get on screen, Gideon. Sharpened edges come in here about 3 inches on the dot. Overall blade length, though, is closer to 3.75 inches. So you'll hear me say a couple times in this review that this is a small knife blade in a big knife's body. And I think you can see why. All right, let's go ahead and get our size comparisons out. Here is our Rat 1. Very similar in overall length to the Rat 1. Here's our Rat 2. Quite a bit bigger, as you would expect if you're familiar with those two knives. Let's bring out our Civivis. There's the Praxis. And there is our Elementum. Again, this knife is definitely on the longer side of the spectrum. Bring out our, USA made comparisons. Spyderco PM2. And the Benchmade Bug Out. And actually, the PM2 and this knife have some similarities in the handle, the way they feel in the hand. Not identical, but kind of similar, enough to remind me of each other. And let's go ahead and finish up this review by comparing against some knives from the same family, some CRKTs. Here's the CRKT Tuna. And here is the recently reviewed CRKT M16-41 Classic. These two knives were both sent into the channel for review by Old Tonto Guy, by the way, so big shout out to him. Thank you so much for sending these knives to the channel. Without him, I never would have taken a look at either of these, so I really, really appreciate it. All right, what are we looking at here in terms of materials? Well, we have plastic scales, and we have a stainless steel blade, and I have been looking everywhere, and I can't find what stainless steel it is. It's not marked on the blade, but knowing CRKT, I'm guessing it's 8CR13, maybe 4116. So if any of you know what the steel is, let me know down below, because I could not find it. Alrighty, correction. I went and did a little more searching, took some digging, but shout out to Knives Plus for listing the blade steel as 8CR14 MOV. So, yeah, there we go. This knife is designed by Matthew Lurch, and at first I thought I was unfamiliar with this guy, but actually there's a lot of really cool CRKTs that he's had a hand in, and he's also a custom maker, so he's got some very unique things. But let's go ahead. Oh, actually, before we get to the cutting footage, there are two versions of this. This version is called the Tonto version, which is stupid. This is a sheep's foot blade. And then there's a drop point version. These knives are discontinued, but you can still buy them some places. So if you're interested, you can track one down without too much trouble. Okay, let's go ahead and go cut some stuff. Hey everybody, you ready to do some review cutting? I sure am. Today we're taking a look at a very interesting little knife. This is the CRKT Directive. Let's go ahead and just get right into this thing. So, action. This is running on bronze washers, and the action is not amazing. I've been carrying this for the past couple of days, so I've kind of got used to it, and so now I'm fine. I know exactly what kind of pressure is required to get that blade out, but yeah, the detent is very, very weak. On the close, it's actually pretty nice, and again, I've adjusted to it, so I'm using it just fine, but yeah, the action is not amazing, so has to be said. So about the ergonomics. This is a very big knife, and in some ways it feels like a small knife blade attached to a big knife handle. Also, there's going to be a bunch of bugs. There's going to be like flies and stuff flying around. Ignore the noises and the interruptions. But yeah, small knife blade on a big knife handle. We're fairly thick. very hand-filling, and the ergos are nice overall. I could do without this jimping here, but it's not the worst thing. You know, plenty of room. If you got big hands, you're going to have a lot of room. Full-size finger choil. This is a full-size finger choil for sure. Yeah, the ergonomics are actually a highlight on this knife. I do like the ergos quite a bit. I wish that this jimping up here was sharper. In fact, this is sharper than this is. But that's kind of a common complaint for me. I think a lot of companies really suck with their jimping, so nothing surprising. Not that it's excused, but you know what I mean. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about how it carries. So again, big knife, but it does fold up into a pretty compact or sleek little shape. In the pocket, there you go. Not deep carry, but I think that's fine. Something I will praise is that this pocket clip is not only reversible, it's 4-way reversible. So whichever way you like to carry a knife, whether it's right or wrong, they've got you covered. The clip itself is very basic. It's very standard. It's nothing really to write home about, but it works, right? It's not egregious. It's not offensive. It's just a very simple, very basic pocket clip, and I don't really have a whole lot of problems with it. You might think it's ugly. It is kind of ugly. The branding's a little bit in your face, but as far as an actual functional clip goes, it's fine. It is just fine. All right, let's go ahead and cut some stuff, namely cardboard. So this blade here is, I can't remember if this is 8CR or 4116. In fact, I think most sites I looked it up just said stainless steel. There's no steel marking, as per usual CRKT, so I'm not sure what the steel is. Not something great, I'd imagine. We do have a hollow grind here, but it's kind of robust. As far as the slicing performance goes, it cuts. It does cut, but I wouldn't say it's, you know, amazing. I wouldn't say it's the world's greatest cutter. We do have a sheep's foot blade on this version, so you can get to your utility cuts pretty easily. It's fairly nice, easy to control that blade. But yeah, there we go. Let's go ahead and bring out the rope. There we go. The table's a little bit lower than normal today. I parked here on the river side and kind of in a little trench. But let's go ahead and do this. 1, 2, 3. That did really well. I actually like that. That was very, very impressive. Thicker hollow grinds tend to do good with the rope test. All right, pool noodle, the real challenge. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so I think we caught on the choil there. Let's try not to do that again. Okay, wow. That actually did really, really nicely. We cut very thinly. We did drag a little bit both times. This was a catch on the choil. This here, though, I do think there are some inconsistencies on the edge. Not surprising because the sharpening on this is a little bit wonky, the edge from the factory, but that did slice really, really nicely. Overall performance on this, I would say, is very good. I'm not upset with that at all. So there's a look at it. Let's go ahead and get back to the table. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get into what I'm liking and not liking about the CRKT Directive. First of all, I do think it's a very interesting looking knife. Oh, I say as I almost drop it. It is kind of striking. The drop point version is probably the one that I would have gone for, but I do think that both versions look really, really nice. The all blacked out look is very suited to this design. And they've got a couple of design elements that pop a little bit. This kind of milling here in the scales, the kind of multi-circular pivot. You know, there's some things going on here. You can tell this is a knife that was designed. So I like the look. I dig that quite a bit. Next thing, the ergonomics on this knife are actually very good. You can really get a full grip on this knife. I mean, I'm pretty sure people of all hand sizes are going to like this knife. Very large handle. The scales are slightly contoured. It's very hand-filling. You have a full-size finger choil that you can choke up into and get really, really nice control over this edge. Yeah, the ergonomics are really nice. There's a few things I don't like about the ergos. We'll get into that later, but overall, the ergos are pretty good to go, and I think they're going to be appreciated by a large range of hand sizes. Next thing, access to the lock bar is pretty good. I appreciate that. Centering and everything is all right. The carry, I really appreciate that they gave you every option available to carry this knife. 4-way reversible clip. That's really cool. We don't see that a whole lot these days. I wish we saw it more. I prefer to carry, right hand tip up carry, but I can definitely understand why some people would want to carry tip down or left hand carry. So it's good that CRKT gives you the options for that. I think that's to be commended. Next thing, this lanyard hole. This is kind of interesting. I think this is an interesting way to do a lanyard. Have it be this big back spacer that kind of sticks out here. It's actually not as obtrusive as other lanyard hole systems. You might think it is just because it's so huge, but I mean, if we tie a lanyard on here, that would kind of keep it out of the way of your hand while you're using it. So definitely appreciate that. Next thing about this knife that I appreciate, it actually was a better cutter than I was expecting. I was not expecting this knife to cut very well. We can see here, this is the factory edge, and it is pretty wonky. It's not even at all. This is a hollow grind, but it's not a particularly thin hollow grind if we look right there. I mean, it definitely gets, considerably thinner than the spine is, but the spine's pretty thick. I didn't think this would have the best cutting geometry, but it actually, through all the use I put it through, it cut just fine. I wouldn't say this is, a world-class performance knife. I wouldn't say this is, anything exceptional, but it cut a lot better than I was expecting it to, and it cut good enough for everything that I used it for. So that's obviously a win. This knife is going to be easy to maintain. You've got a lot of life to sharpen out there. This 8CR steel is going to sharpen up very easily. And I think something that helped this knife when it came to its cutting performance is the ergonomics. You can get a lot of control over this blade. Now, the proportions might look a little bit off, but when you have so much handle and not a whole lot of blade, you allow yourself a lot of options in control. And I could definitely feel that with this knife. Having so much handle real estate allowed me to use the blade in some ways that you might not expect to use a knife of this size. So I appreciated that a whole bunch. All right, let's go ahead and talk about my negatives. Negative number 1, the action is not good. Not good at all. This is running on phosphor bronze washers, and through carry, I adjusted myself to where I can use this knife pretty reliably, right? But you do have to flick it just right. It helps put in a little bit of wrist. I'm just not a big fan of the action. The closing action's actually very nice, but I mean, I'm so used to it. But yeah, the opening action, the detent's just not real strong. And right now I have it adjusted where there's minimal blade play. There's a little bit of blade play right now. But if you want to have it flick like a champ, you're going to sacrifice the blade stability for that. So the action is definitely a weak part of this knife. Again, though, like you can see here, I've been flicking it reliably every single time. You get used to it, but I don't think you necessarily should have to do that, right? This isn't so much a case of the knife breaking in. This is me breaking in, me just getting used to it and building up that muscle memory to use this knife effectively. And in today's day and age, we've got the technology to make knives that flip way, way easier. Next thing, the branding is always kind of obnoxious with CRKT. They've got on the clip, they've got CRKT on the blade, they've got all this writing on the blade, but they don't have a blade steel marking. What? What? Why not? Are they ashamed of the materials they're using? Well, maybe. Next thing, I do like that the pocket clip is forward reversible. The pocket clip itself is kind of plain looking, but honestly, it works fine. I'm not going to complain about it too much. I do wish that we had, you can see here we have a, oh my goodness, what do you call this? A filler tab on this side, but we don't have filler tabs on the tip up or tip down carry sections. I kind of think that would have been cool. With the ergonomics, this jimping I wish was a lot more grippy. It's just kind of smooth, pretty much non-functional jimping. And this here is a little bit annoying in the hand. If you're like really, really bearing down, this can, kind of be uncomfortable. Not so much back here, but I definitely felt this quite a bit. And the hardware on this is not the best. These screws here kind of free spinning, pretty soft, so that's not going to be great for disassembly and maintenance. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to my final conclusions. Final conclusions, these knives were going for around the $50 price point. Are they worth that? I would not say so. I would not say so. With this action, with these materials, I would say that these are overpriced, for sure. What do I think about the knife itself? The design, I dig. I really do like the design. And honestly, while I was carrying this knife, I was more impressed than I thought I would be. I kind of held off reviewing this knife for a while just because I didn't like the action and I thought the blade was going to be a bad performer. But then once I did start carrying it and using it for review, I kind of came around and realized, okay, the design is good. The knife itself is usable. I got used to the action. Can I recommend this knife? No. No, I can't recommend this knife, unfortunately. Cool design, but I think there's just way better things out there. This kind of has a lot of CRKT issues. Great design, let down by poor execution and materials. I think CRKT is getting better at that. This year they're starting to use things like 14C, 28N, and they're trying to improve kind of their brand reputation. But this is definitely from an era where CRKT was problematic. So you can probably pass on this knife. And that's going to be it from me today, guys. Thank you so much to my channel members at the Cowboy level. They're right here on the screen. If you want to be a member, there's a button below. Thank you to everyone who likes, comments, and subscribes. We're almost at 3,000 subscribers, which means we're going to be doing a giveaway soon. So keep an eye out for that. And I think that's going to be it. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.